Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Today I want to share a story with you. It's been a while since I've told stories here, and this story is sad. This story is very sad, and if you're here for happy sunshine, go away, because this is bad, right? But in light of yesterday's episode and all the warm wishes I've got from all of you over the past few months as I've told you all this tragedy that I've been through and everybody wanting to make sure that I'm okay. Number one, I super major appreciate that. I appreciate the emails and the postcards and the text messages and the tweets and everybody reaching out and saying, man, I hope you're doing okay. This year has sucked. Yes, this year has sucked. But I have been through worse, and that's the story that I'm about to share with you. So I want you to know that I'm okay. I want you to know that where I come from, my past is extremely dark, and where I am today is just slightly gray. So here we go. As a child, I was constantly bullied from the youngest of ages, like first, second, third, all the way up through middle school. I was bullied a lot. I was always smaller and skinnier than the other kids. I was not particularly athletic, and though I could excel at academia and at learning, that made me even more of a target. So I was picked on. I was picked on all the time, pushed around, bullied, put down, told I was worthless, told I'd never amount to anything, and eventually that came to be. I came to believe them. I came to believe that I would never be as good as them. And so I started to seek other ways of approval, other ways to find approval from my peers. And so I kind of became a little bit of a goof off. I became somewhat of a class clown. My deflection mechanism was just to make people laugh, and it always has been. And I still use it to this day successfully to diffuse situations with people. So I learned to become a goofball, and I learned to become a clown and to do things my own way. And that started, that didn't help. It really didn't. It helped me to deflect, but it didn't help with the bullying. It didn't help with the constant shaming, because now not only was I, this scrawny, unathletic nerd, I was now acting like a weirdo, and so that just caused it to be even worse. But I thought it was helping me. Well, it wasn't. So I grew up in this very shameful, self-hatred kind of place where I wanted to be so different, and I attempted to change myself for them, for the bullies, and it didn't work out. So around, I think I was 14 the first time I attempted suicide, and I jumped off a bridge. Now, I can laugh about it now, but at the time, I want you to know that I was in a very dark place. I was just done with it all. I was so sick of being the whipping boy, the punching bag. So we were at my great aunt's lake house that summer, and I jumped off a bridge. The reason it's amusing is because the bridge is only 20 feet off the water. I don't know why I thought this was going to be it, but I literally jumped off this bridge into not the shallow. The water wasn't that shallow, and I was fine. Didn't even have a cut. So I hit the water. I come back up quickly, and I'm floating there well, I'll just, I'll wait for a boat to hit me, and that'll be the end of it. And a few minutes of that stupidity goes by, and I realize that drowning very slowly from exhaustion is going to suck. So I swam to shore, and I walked back to my great aunt's house, and I told my parents I slipped on a rock and whatever, and just kind of let it all pass. That summer went by, that winter went by. I kind of went back into my shell and tried to figure out how to dig my way out of this thing. By the next year, it was not any better, and I want to say it was around the spring of the next year, so I was 15 at the time, that I attempted suicide for the second time. That time, I ate an entire bottle of Tylenol, and I laid down and waited for death. That time, I don't know if it was anxiety or I don't know if it was the medication, but I puked most of it back up. It did make me sick. I got very, very ill, I think the vomiting might have been anxiety from the weight. I'm not sure, but I think that, again, I wasn't meant to be dead, and I somehow knew that as much as I wanted it. And I puked all the pills. Not all the pills, obviously, because I had really bad pain in my side for a day, and I just kind of, whatever. So I got through that summer. School started up the next year, and my friend, my very closest best friend, started dating this girl. And while they were dating, I fell madly in love with this girl, just madly in love with her. And eventually they broke up, and I'm not proud to admit that I might have orchestrated part of that for my own self purposes, but I ended up dating this chick. And we dated for 6 months or so, 4 or 5, 6 months, somewhere around. Dated through Christmas, had a wonderful Christmas, had a wonderful New Year's, led up to what's the holiday? Valentine's Day, and I had planned this little prank on her, and I had got her something, and I told her I didn't, and she went crazy, just hated the idea. I told her I didn't get you anything, and then I was going to surprise her at lunch with something. So I walk into lunch, and she just goes off on me and about how I was an asshole and I didn't get her anything for this holiday, and that was it. That was my first real relationship, and I fucked it up. I threw it away. And that night I went home and I attempted suicide for the third time. I put a shotgun in my mouth and pulled the trigger. Now, obviously, that did nothing. I'm still here. The gun did not fire. I don't know why. It was my father's. It had been in a closet for 40 years. The shells had been just kind of in the little cubby hole for it, so they were probably wet. It probably just, nothing ever happened. I don't know why, but it didn't fire. And so I just laid on the floor and bawled my eyes out, put everything away. I had I had it all planned. I got in the shower. I sat there. I was ready so that way they could just turn the water on and wash me down the drain. I don't know. I was crazy. So my parents came home. I told them what happened this time. I told them I hated feeling this way, and they rushed me to a mental institution. And I spent a few weeks in lockup and finding myself and learning about what was going on, and that it wasn't necessarily just this bullying. It's probably something chemical, so they put me on drugs. I also had become slightly schizophrenic at that time. I was hearing things, and they put me on drugs for that. And I got out. I spent maybe 5 or 6 days out and immediately went back in. I learned later during this time that some stuff had gone down between my parents and the girl, and it just caused us to never really be able to make anything of this relationship. So she was gone from my life. While I was in the hospital, she started dating somebody else, and I never forgave her for that. I blamed everything on her, that it was her fault that I felt this way, which was total bullshit, but it was how I justified it to myself. It's how I told myself that I was normal. It wasn't my fault. This girl had broken my heart, and I carried that weight for a very long time. I took the medication. After about 6 months on the antipsychotic, I could not take it anymore. Taking that stuff is just mind-numbing, literally. It makes you feel like you're not you. So I stopped taking it, and then eventually I weaned myself off the antidepressants, and I joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps so that I could learn how to love myself. And my recruiter walked me through how to lie to the Marine Corps about my history, and so I did. I lied about my history. There's no record of it anyway. And I made it through boot camp, and I made it through 4 years in the Marine Corps. And during that time, I learned to love myself. I learned that I could be strong, that I could be accepted, that I could be something to somebody. And I got out of the Marine Corps in 2001, went immediately to school. I was in school during 9/11. I never got recalled back to the Marine Corps, and I ended up working at an automotive dealership. And one day I get a phone call. A girl was in panic, and her windshield wipers weren't working. It was pouring the rain down. She was trying to get to school. I told her to come in and we'd take care of her. And this blue car pulls in, and she steps out, and it was her. And my heart melted immediately. 5 months later, we got married. And we've been married now for over 13 years. The girl was Jamie, and she was my world. The one that got away because I was an idiot. And I had a chance again. And we spent the next few years screwing that up too, you know. Spent many years trying to figure out how to be her husband, how to be a father. It took me a very long time to figure out how to spend time with my girls without getting seriously upset, and how to be a decent person. And I screwed all that up again. And here we are. Here we are today. Now, 5 years ago, I was pretty bad. And I've learned to deal with it since then. Jamie and I have always been really good friends, regardless of how our actual love life has gone. We've always been extremely good friends, and we still are to this day. She hasn't lived here now for 4 months. And it sucks. But it's going well. And so many of you have asked lately that I've mentioned that I was, shopping for bachelor food and that the girls weren't here. Yes, Jamie and the girls live with her mom. They have for 4 months now. They started living there during the summer when Dad was getting sick. They would stay here every now and then when he needed a break, but they moved in full time after Dad's death, and I haven't had them for a long time. And I'm coping. I'm coping pretty well. Keely spent the night with me last night, and it was awesome. Those two little girls, they mean the world to me. And I want you to know this, because I want you to know that it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel like you can't ever achieve anything, but I want you to know you can. All the stuff I've done in my life, joining the Marine Corps, becoming a successful automotive mechanic, earning Navy Achievement Medals in the Marine Corps, writing software, my current position, every promotion I've ever had, my family, this beautiful 3-bedroom house I own, my cars, my dogs, my motorcycles, all of that stuff was built off of the shoulders of someone who wanted to die so bad that he tried to kill himself. I promise you, if you've ever thought about suicide, it is not worth it. It will get better. You might end up homeless. You might end up addicted to drugs. You might end up with no outs. It will get better. People do care. You will find someone. It just takes time, and you have to first learn how to love yourself. If you've ever had feelings like that, please call somebody. Call somebody that you can trust and talk to them. If you don't have somebody, call the suicide hotline. I will put the number in the search box or in the description box below. Reach out to anybody you can think of and tell them how you feel, because it is not worth it. I promise you. Life is way too good to give it up. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for listening to my stories and riding this adventure with me. I really do appreciate it. I want you to know I love each and every one of you so much. I can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow. I'll see you then.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact is that there are people out there that love you, and if you are struggling with depression, suicide, anything, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 and get help. Find somebody to talk to, find a doctor who will listen, and get help.